Hey friends, welcome back to another recap episode. This time I'm talking about March of 2022. So I'll dive in with the first question. Where have I been for the past month? Well, this month was split. The first half of the month I was still in Hueco tanks. Just wrapped up my trip with a couple final weeks there. And then I drove to St. George, Utah. And I've been here for the past a little bit more than 2 weeks now. I'm recording this on April 5th. What have you been doing for the past month? Where were you climbing? What were you trying? What were your goals? So yeah, the first couple weeks I was just wrapping up in Hueco and it was starting to get kind of hot there. I was kind of feeling beat up. Could kind of tell that my two main projects might not come together. And it was really fun. I kind of pivoted, did a couple slightly easier things that I'd been wanting to do, and it felt really good to end the trip with some sends. I also spent a couple days trying Martini Right, which is a dream climb of mine. It's a V12 that I want to try a lot more next year. Didn't try as much this year as I had planned. I actually just recorded an entire debrief episode about my Hueco trip with Steve Maish, and I'll be putting that out for you guys soon as another follow-up with Steve. So if you want to hear more about that, we just talked for an hour and a half about my Hueco trip. But yeah, it felt really nice to kind of put the projects aside, end the trip on a high note, climbing some fun things, and leave there feeling motivated to come back. And now in St. George, I've been climbing with Joe Kinder for the last couple weeks. He and I have been climbing out in the Utah hills. He's been trying his project Mamma Jamma that he talked about in our conversation back in episode 96, I believe. And that's been awesome. I've been learning a lot from Joe. It's been really fun to watch him try his project. He's making really good progress, and I think he's close to sending. So that's been great. I've been trying a route that he put up called Joe Exotic, which we think is a hard 14A. So that's been really cool. It's the first time I've tried a route that hard since 2018. So it's been quite a while since I really poured some energy into a 514, and it's going really well, making steady progress. We've had 7 days on it so far. Did all the moves on day one, and I've just been slowly building links. And my goal right now is to climb the route in 2 sections. So from the ground to bolt 5, the start of the final boulder problem, and then do that boulder problem and go all the way to the anchor. I almost did that last session, got really close. So I think I can do that upper link next session. There's a couple moves in between bolt 4 and 5 that feel really hard for me. So focusing on those right now, I think that's going to be kind of a sticking point for a little while, but I think I'm close to linking through that from the ground. So that feels really exciting. I feel pretty far away from sending the whole thing. It's really consistently hard, and putting the two halves together is going to be a really big step up from doing the 2 sections on their own. So we'll see what happens, but yeah, it's been awesome. Been learning a lot, been bouncing ideas off of Joe and kind of just copying his tactics as much as I can and applying them to my own process. And it's been really, really cool. I'm here for 3 more weeks and I'm just excited to see what happens. Name 3 climbing highlights from the past month. I guess the first one is just sending a few things in my final week in Hueco. I did a boulder problem called Shamu. That's kind of the V9 version of Free Willy. I didn't do Free Willy again this year, but I did Shamu, which felt like a really nice consolation prize because it felt very hard for me last year. I don't think I could have done it. So that was really neat. Did a couple other things that I'd been wanting to do, and it just felt good to leave with a few more sends under my belt. And then trying Martini Right. I think that was another highlight. It was super fun to just start playing on that thing, do a lot of the moves, start linking some sections, and just it got me really amped to focus on that one next year. That is a long V12 in the Martini Cave. It's super famous, super classic, and it's like a total dream route for me, and it would represent a big step up in my climbing. So I'm going to be fixated on that and thinking about it a lot over the next year until I go back to Hueco. So that's another highlight. And then, yeah, third highlight, probably just trying this really hard route with Joe. It's been super fun and challenging and intimidating and empowering all mixed into one. It's just been a really cool experience so far. How are you training this past month? I kind of let off on the training for my last 2 weeks in Hueco because it was the end of the trip. I'm just trying to perform and send a few final things. And then since getting to St. George, I just had a conversation with Ned Feely that I published. We recorded that when I was back in Hueco, so a little over a month ago. And I've been trying his 3 max hangs every climbing day idea. So that's kind of new for me. It's really fun. I do a warm up in the gym, do some easy hangboarding to get the fingers going, do 3 max hangs, and then go climbing. And that's about all I've been doing. I haven't been doing any strength training on the side or anything, at least for now. I did a lot of that in Hueco. I was doing the overhead presses and the scapular strength and things like that. Kind of taking a break on that for right now, just doing the max hangs and then going rock climbing. And so far, feeling good from that. I really like this simple 3 max hangs approach. I do half crimp one day on a big edge with some assistance from the other hand, just do 3 reps per hand. And then the next climbing day, I'll do full crimp with 2 hands on a smaller edge. And then the next day, I'll do 3 finger drag on the big edge with some assistance, 1 arm hangs. So yeah, really simple. I've only been doing that for a couple of weeks, but so far so good. And I'm excited to keep that going over the long haul and see what happens. What did you do well this past month, and what could you have done better? One thing I'm really glad I did was I kind of pulled my foot off the gas my last week in Hueco as far as projecting. I wanted to just have fun, enjoy my final week there, send some other things that were fun that I wasn't sure if I was ever going to go back to, and just leave on a high note. I think I'm glad I did that versus just beating my head against the projects right up until I had to leave. So that was really good. And what could I have done better? I don't know. Nothing really stands out. I think with this route I'm trying now, just kind of going through the process, making little bits of progress every day. One thing I've been trying to do is listen to my body and focus on the part of the route that makes the most sense or sounds the most fun that day versus trying the same hard sections every time. So adding a little variety, keep things fresh. I think that's going pretty well. And just learning a lot. So yeah, so far so good. What is something that stood out to you from a recent episode? Yeah, like I said, the conversation with Ned was really cool to me. I really think he has a refreshing perspective on finger strength and hangboarding. And it's kind of something I've been looking for quite a while is there a way to get my fingers stronger over the long term that is compatible with my lifestyle of climbing and living on the road and climbing on rock all the time? So I loved that conversation. His philosophy really resonates with me right now at the stage that I'm at in my own climbing. And I'm excited to try this 3 simple max hangs every time I go climbing approach and see what happens from that. So that's been a really big one. Describe a favorite moment or memory from the past month. Life's been good. I feel like there's several that come to mind, but one thing that was really fun is I wasn't sure if I felt psyched on sport climbing when I came back to St. George. I felt ready to leave Hueco, but I could have stayed. I could have kept bouldering, and I was still feeling really fired up on bouldering. But I came back to St. George, and one of my first days back, I hiked up to the Hueco just to say hi to friends. I didn't even bring my pack. I wasn't climbing. And it just felt so fun to be immersed back in that scene and to see people try hard routes and to encourage them and hear the banter and chat with people. So it's really always interesting to me how quickly motivation changes. I'm always surprised at what I get psyched on and where that comes from, and it always feels really mysterious. But yeah, within about 2 days of being back in St. George, I felt really psyched to sport climb again. So that day up there, just catching up with old friends was a really good memory from the past month. Next question, what is a book or podcast you enjoyed recently that you would recommend? I just added that question this morning because I have one that comes to mind. I listened to an audiobook on my drive up from Hueco to St. George called 4,000 Weeks by Oliver Burkeman, and I thought it was excellent. It was really poignant, really relevant for me right now. The book is about time management, kind of, but it's not your typical productivity, get more work done sort of book. What the author does is he does a really good job of putting our lives in the context of the cosmos and making our time here on Earth seem very small and very precious. And he basically does an excellent job of putting forth this idea that your time's really precious and you should spend it doing things that you really care about instead of trying to get through your email faster and trying to be more productive at these little things that never seem to end. We always feel like we're almost on top of things. Like if we just get a little bit more efficient, we can finally feel like we're on top of everything, and we never actually arrive at that feeling. So I really enjoyed the book. I had a real sense of peace listening to it that's kind of stuck with me in the couple weeks since I've listened to it, and I plan to listen to it again. So highly recommend that one for you guys who are looking for a new book to read. And finally, final question, what have I been grateful for lately? I've been feeling super grateful for the climbing community and for the friends that I've gotten to reconnect with here in St. George. I had a great time in Hueco, but Hueco for me is a lot of solo time, climbing with people and meeting people, sure, but a lot of time at the campsite in my van, living kind of a hermit life, doing my thing. And that felt like a nice recharge, but being here has been a really fun time. It's been really good to connect with old friends, make some new ones, and just be around more people. I've been kind of hanging out at the climbing gym here. Contact Climbing in St. George is an awesome gym if you guys are ever coming through. And yeah, just great people there. It's been a really fun home base for me. And it's been really fun to climb with Joe and see some other friends in town. And there's just a lot of energy, a lot of psych, a lot of people fired up on sport climbing here. So that's been really fun to tap into. And that's all I've got for this recap. Still curious if you guys are enjoying these. I haven't really heard much feedback. I'd love to accept questions for these if there's things that you guys would like to hear me talk about each month and reflect on from the previous month. Yeah, whatever you guys are interested, I'm totally willing to make these little episodes, whatever you guys want them to be, whatever would be most interesting or most helpful. Just let me know. But yeah, thanks for listening, and thank you guys all for your ongoing support. It's all patrons listening to this, and I really appreciate you supporting the show and supporting my work. It means a lot to me. So thank you for being here, and I hope you guys have an amazing week.